Our adventurers begin to wake up in cold, stony prison cells. No knowledge how they get there. Ivan the Terrible, a half-orc barbarian wielding a greatsword. In scenery, a rogue half-elf. They talk with the king, who explains to them about a magical lute that they need to go get from a bard who lives in a cabin up on Cherry Hill. They travel through farmland. They travel through dense forest where they ran into 3 goblins and encountered a golden dragon who wanted nothing to do with them. Then they crossed the old wooden bridge over Blue River and finally reached Cherry Hill, where they encountered the bard who at first disguised himself as Ivan's grandfather. But the ruse did not work on Scenery. Scenery asked for the lute, and the bard gave it to her, wooden with runes. They returned it to the king, who advised that is not the lute and showed him a picture of the lute, and gave them one last chance as his guards surrounded them. They stayed in the local tavern where the wench was hitting on Ivan, and he didn't pick up on it. Ivan did help her to clear out 2 patrons who were fighting, though. Ivan also tried to show Scenery the room that they got, but Scenery mistook it as him hitting on her. She chose not to stay in the tavern that night before they headed back out through the farmland, the forest, over the bridge, and back to Cherry Hill to deal with the bard. Ivan was really upset at this point, so he kept swinging and swinging at the bard and kept dodging over and over until finally he connected and killed the bard. Ivan stood there in disbelief at how tired he was from all the swinging, while Scenery searched the entire premises and finally found the lute. They brought it back to the king, and after some hesitation gave it to him, where he ordered Bob, his knight, to bring out their sack of gold. They went back to the tavern to spend the evening, but when they woke up, Ivan went to purchase equipment to find he only had dog turds in his money pouch. Scenery had asked why everyone was so glum and found out the king had died in his sleep. She went to the castle to figure out what was going on, and the king's royal vizier was there. She asked him about the lute, and he seemed to not know about it, but thanked her, as they could not discover the cause of death. Though, as she was leaving, he did some very familiar things, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Ivan was angry and looking for Scenery, as he believed it was her that stole his gold. He finally found her, and through deduction, they both discovered that the royal vizier was in fact none other than the bard. They went back to the castle to confront the bard, who appeared as his normal self, making everyone else in the castle disappear. The bard then handed the lute over to Ivan. The bard then asked Ivan if there was anything that he wished for. Ivan told him he wished for a more powerful sword. At that moment, a giant sword fell from the sky and damaged Ivan. Ivan used a healing potion, at which point the bard asked him if there's anything else that he wished for. Ivan then wished for the bard to die. The bard whistled, and the castle came crumbling down, a large stone crushing the bard, the falling structure hurting both Ivan and Scenery as well. The bard then popping back into existence and saying to Ivan, "What else do you wish for?" Ivan then wished for Scenery to be completely nude. The bard whistled, and Scenery's clothes were immediately removed. The lute left Ivan's hand and showed up in Scenery's. And the bard looked at Scenery and says, "Do you wish for some clothing, my dear?" She said yes. The bard whistled, and about 900 pounds of clothes fell right on top of her, injuring her further. She picked out the cleanest one she could find, and then she looked over at Ivan, who she noticed was aging very rapidly. So she wished that his aging would stop, and Ivan turned to stone. You've got one more wish, dearie. What is it that you really desire? Scenery thought long and hard about this, as it seems that this being, definitely not a bard, was only able to hurt them when they wished for something. So she had to do something drastic. She looked at the bard and spoke. I wish that everything that has happened up to when we first met the king 12 days ago didn't happen. She thought she saw anger in the bard's eyes as he whistled, and everything went black. The first thing that they noticed was the smell, a familiar smell. They opened their eyes and were back in the prison cell. They could hear the guard coming.